أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور، أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير. ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير. أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير. أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور. أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور. أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين صدق الله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. And conceal your speech or publicize it. Indeed, He is knowing of that within the breasts. Does He who created not know, while He is the subtle, the acquainted? It is He who made the earth tame for you. So walk among its slopes and eat of His provision, and to Him is the resurrection. Do you feel secure that He who holds authority in the heaven would not cause the earth to swallow you and suddenly it would sway? Or do you feel secure that He who holds authority in the heaven would not send against you a storm of stones? Then you would know how severe was my warning. And already had those before them denied, and how terrible was my reproach. Do they not see the birds above them, with wings outspread and sometimes folded in? None holds them aloft except the most merciful. Indeed, He is of all things seeing. Or who is it that could be an army for you to aid you other than the most merciful? The disbelievers are not but in delusion. Or who is it that could provide for you if He withheld His provision, but they have persisted in insolence and aversion? Then is one who walks fallen on his face better guided, or one who walks erect on a straight path? Say, it is He who has produced you, and made for you hearing and vision and hearts. Little are you grateful. Say, it is He who has multiplied you throughout the earth, and to Him you will be gathered. And they say, when is His promise if you should be truthful? Say, the knowledge is only with Allah, and I am only a clear warner. But when they see it approaching, the faces of those who disbelieve will be distressed, and it will be said, this is that for which you used to call. Say, O Muhammad, have you considered whether Allah should cause my death and those with me, or have mercy upon us? Who can protect the disbelievers from a painful punishment? Say, He is the most merciful. We have believed in Him, and upon Him we have relied. And you will come to know who it is that is in clear error. Say, have you considered if your water was to become sunken into the earth, then who could bring you flowing water? Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاتبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت والجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم، وأبرأوا إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم، وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب، وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة، وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم، وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ به أولا ثم لعن الثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمرا وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك المظلومين المضطهدين صلى الله عليك وعلى ولدك الحسين المذبوح بكربلاء لعن الله الظالمين لكم من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين يا صريع الدمعة الساكبة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا قتيل العدا ويا مسلوب العمامة والردى ما خاب من تمسك بكم ومن لجأ إليكم مولاي أبا عبد الله طبتم وطابت الأرض الذي فيها دفنتم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله Peace be upon you O أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك and on the souls that died along with you عليك مني سلام الله أبدا greetings of peace of Allah be upon you from me forever ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار so long as I live and so long as the night and day remain ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم May Allah not make it my last contact of ziyarah with you. Assalamu ala al-Hussein, peace be upon you, Ya Hussein. Wa ala ya Ali ibn al-Hussein, and also on Ali, the son of Hussein. وعلى أولاد الحسين and also on the children of Hussein وعلى أصحاب الحسين and also on the companions of Hussein. Together in one voice we send our salutations. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Again, السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. One more time. السلام على الحسين وعلى اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد. Oh Allah, curse the first tyrant who oppressed the rights of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Wa akhira tabi'in lahu ala dhalik, and also on those who followed him on that. Allahumma al'an al-isabati allati jahadat al-Husayn. Oh Allah, curse the group who fought against Hussein. وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله, and the group which followed and supported those who joined hands in killing him. Allahumma la'anhum jami'a. Oh Allah, curse them all. First, I would like to extend my deepest and most profound condolences to the household of Revelation on the occasion commemorating the martyrdom of Sayyid al-Shuhada al-Husayn ibn Ali alayhum as-salam, along with his family and companions at Karbala. To you, Ya Rasulullah, and to your purified progeny, in particular to the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, al-Imam al-Muntadhar, may Allah hasten his reappearance. We convey our ta'azi by expressing our grief and sadness on this tragic day, a day which our A'imma have declared as being like no other in its sacredness and magnitude, where they all said, La yawmun ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah, for there is no day like your day, O Aba Abdullah. To our revered ulama in Iraq and Iran, in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Pakistan, around the world and in Lebanon, and to the followers of Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad who have gathered around the globe on this very day to mourn and remember the sacrifice of Al-Husayn alayhi salam at Karbala over 13 centuries ago. To you I say, عظم الله أجوركم وشكر الله سعيكم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام فجزاكم الله خير الجزاء. Before I commence with the maqtal, reenacting the tragedy that unfolded on this day, I would like to make a few brief announcements. I wish to begin by praising and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the bounties and blessings He has bestowed upon us. Had it not been for His infinite mercy, which encompasses everything in this universe, these gatherings for Aba Abdullah would not exist even until today. On behalf of His Eminence Samahat Sayyid Hashim Nasrullah Hafidhullah and to the Zahra Mosque, I would like to express in a few words our gratitude, and to all the brothers and sisters who with pure intentions and enthusiasm assisted us tirelessly over the years, and in particular the past 10 nights, contributing in one way or another by giving up their time and comfort in the service of Al-Husayn alayhi salam. To all those who partook and participated, to our distinguished speakers and volunteers, and to those who helped us with security and the organization of traffic and crowd control, the donations and the distribution of food, water and any type of charitable sadaqah, to all of you I say, Jazakumullah khair al-jaza. You will definitely come to realize that all of your actions will be appreciated, recognized insha'Allah at the hour of need, especially with Fatima az-Zahra and her household. وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. And whoever honors the signs of Allah, this surely is the outcome of the pious hearts. And as reported by Imamuna as-Sadiq alayhi salam, أحيوا أمرنا رحم الله من أحيا أمرنا. Revive our cause. May Allah have mercy on those who revive our cause. And your presence here today with your families and all those around the world is a clear sign of the revival of the cause of Abi Abdullah al-Husayn. To all you devout mourners who every evening join the Prophet and his household, sharing in their grief the tragedy of Ashura, to you I say, may Allah reward you immensely. فَإِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Verily Allah accepts only from those who are pious. Allah says in the Holy Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Ahzab, of the believers are men who are true to the covenant they had with Allah. Some of them have fulfilled their vows by sacrificing their lives in the way of Allah, and some of them are still waiting, and they did not change their commitment to the least. During the solemn occasion commemorating the martyrdom of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam, the Shia and followers of Ali Muhammad try to avoid all forms of festivity and joy. They are as one bereaved family, expressing their grief and sorrow through mourning rituals such as these gatherings of majalis. Karbala is the cruelest tragedy humanity has ever seen, yet the startling though appalling events in Karbala proved to be like a powerful volcano that shook the very foundation of Muslims. It stirred their consciousness, ignorant or learned alike. For sincere Muslims, Karbala turned into a triumph. The tragic event became the very beacon of light to always remind Muslims to practice Islam honestly and sincerely, to do what is right irrespective of consequences, and fear no one except Allah. On the other hand, Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, the son of Abi Sufyan, never achieved what he and his father had planned to achieve, for within 3 years Allah's wrath fell upon him, causing him to die at the age of 33. And within a few decades the rule of Bani Umayyah crumbled and came to an end. The tragedy of Karbala taught humanity a lesson that one should stand up for truth and justice and fight against corruption and oppression, even if it is till death. For this is more honorable and valuable than submitting to the wrongful, wicked, corrupt tyrants, especially when the survival of Islam is at stake. As Brother Hussein talked about, today's modern day Karbala, and for many of you who have been following the news for so many years, what we see around us in the world and the injustice and the oppression committed against the Palestinians in Gaza, the genocide that is being committed by the Israelis against the civilian population in Palestine, against the Lebanese, the aggression against Iran, where there are innocent people, the expansionist genocidal state of Israel is like that of Yazid and Bani Umayyah. And for the people who stood up against these aggressors, for they are the followers of Ali Muhammad, for they have learnt these lessons from Abi Abdullah. The subtle message of sacrifice and steadfastness in their goals to stand up for their rights against injustice. Hussein alayhi salam died for the sake of Allah and his religion, and Allah has promised to keep Hussein's name alive and his great sacrifice till the day of judgment. On the 1st of Muharram, al-Hussein's caravan arrived just outside the plains of Karbala. They pitched their tents for the night. Hussein, together with his sister Zainab alayha salam, were standing talking as they both sighted the new moon to the month. Tears flowed from Hussein's eyes, and Zainab grew worried Zainab grew worried and asked her brother, "My dearest brother Hussein, why are there tears in your eyes?" To which he replied, "Zainab, please pray for me that I keep my promise to Allah. Pray that I succeed in completing my mission to save Islam and humanity, and that I do not hesitate in giving up my life for Islam." Zainab's eyes were filled with tears when she heard what her brother had asked her to do. "My beloved sister Zainab, do not cry, for you will have to perform a greater duty after my death. Be brave and patient." Zainab then returned back to her tent, when soon after Ali al-Akbar, the teenage son of Hussein, joined his father. "Bunay Ali Akbar, I saw a dream last night. I saw a group of people heading for a place where death was waiting for them. I saw them all killed one by one." Ali al-Akbar asked his father, "Ya Abata, I know these people are us. But tell me, O father, awalasna ala al-haq? Are we not on the right path, father?" "Bala ya bunay." "Yes, my son, we are on the right path," his father replied. To which Ali al-Akbar replied, "La nubali waqa'na ala al-maut وقع الموت علينا. Let us not worry, O Father, if we are on the right path, whether we fall upon death or death falls upon us. We should continue our journey and greet our death with a smile, said Ali al-Akbar. Over the next 9 days, the tens of thousands of Yazid's men had gathered and arrived to join the battalion of soldiers at Karbala. The day of Ashura dawned on the plains of Karbala, and Hussein and his companions had spent the previous nights in prayers and supplications. Early morning they came out of their tents and assembled to offer the morning prayers behind their beloved Imam. Al-Hussein asked his son Ali al-Akbar to recite the adhan for the last time. And the significance of this was that Hussein's son resembled his great-grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih in appearance, and the adhan itself and the words in itself in the adhan included the words Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, which is what Al-Hussein wanted to present that message to the enemies and remind them that he was from the lineage and the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. As if Hussein was given a last chance to the people who had assembled to fight him to rethink their motives. For they claimed to be Muslims and were following the orders of a man claiming to be the rightful Khalifa of the Prophet of Islam, who openly flouted all the Islamic covenants, whilst Hussein, being the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, and being the most righteous person of his time, was being branded as a rebel. There were people in that crowd who had seen the Prophet and therefore should have been reminded of his looks by seeing Ali al-Akbar standing up and reciting the adhan. It was, however, clear that Umar ibn Sa'd and his men were not going to change their stance. With the break of dawn on the 10th of Muharram in the year 680 AD, Al-Hussein alayhi salam led his followers to the morning prayer. Then he wore his grandfather's armor and turban and put on his father's sword. He then stood to address his followers, beginning with the praise of Allah. He said, Inna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قد أذن في قتلكم وقتل في هذا اليوم فعليكم بالصبر والقتال. Allah has destined that you and I shall be killed today. Therefore I urge you to be strong and resilient fighting. Umar ibn Sa'd alayhi al-la'nah, the commander of the enemy's army, came with 30,000 troops who'd gathered in front of the tents where the women and children were housed. Keeping a close eye to what was happening, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam then began to prepare and arrange his camp, mobilizing 72 of his companions for the battle, appointing Zuhair ibn al-Qayn to command the right flank of his army, and Habib ibn Mudahir to command the left flank, and he with his family to be positioned in the middle, whilst his brother Al-Abbas was chosen to be the flag bearer. On the opposing side, as the forces of Yazid began assembling to attack, Umar ibn Sa'd appointed Amr ibn al-Hajjaj to command the right flank and Shimr ibn al-Jawshan the left. He gave the command of the cavalry to Urwa ibn Qais and the infantry to Shabath ibn Rabi', giving his army's flag to his slave Duraid. Hussein's followers took it in turn to approach the army of Yazid and address them formally. This was important because every member in Hussein's party had some relative, cousin, or at least someone from his tribe facing him or opposing him from amongst the enemy. Then Hussein alayhi salam rode out towards the enemy troops to let the enemy know of his peaceful intention. He addressed them, explaining in detail and reminding him who he was and who they were facing, and reminding them of his close relationship with the Holy Prophet and his pure way of life, warning them they were going to commit a grave mistake by harming the Prophet's family, telling them, Ayyuhan nas, O people, let us take the book of Allah and the tradition of my grandfather to decide between us, he told them. O people, recollect my lineage and remember who I am, then ask your conscience and consider if it is proper that you should kill me and cut the lineage of my descent to the Prophet. ألا وإن الداعي ابن الداعي قد ركز بين اثنتين بين السلة والذلة وهيهات من الذلة. Now that the son of an illegitimate birth has cornered me between two options, either to fight or be humiliated by paying him allegiance, never will I accept humiliation, for hayhat min adh-dhillah. The enemy, bewildered at what Hussein was saying, refused to accept his warnings. Al-Hussein alayhi salam looked at them in despair and returned back to his camp. Watching his men listening to the Imam, Umar ibn Sa'd became concerned that some of these words would affect the morale of his troops and men, and to preempt this effort to compromise and bring sense into his troops, Umar ibn Sa'd stood up and said loudly, "Everyone in my battalion, I want you to bear witness to Yazid that I am the first to have shot the arrow in this battle." And saying this, he put an arrow to his bow and shot it towards the camp of Hussein. Symbolically, this was the official beginning of the battle on the day of Ashura. Following the arrow cast by the commander himself, thousands of arrows were shot by other archers in the first round, but no one was hurt in Hussein's camp at this stage because of the distance which separated them. The pressure in Hussein's camp was building up, and the children were crying for water. As the sun rose higher and the desert heat became more intense by the minute, the children's cries were now reaching the tents of Hussein's companions, who, although were set on laying their lives for the Prophet's grandson and for the Islamic principles, were also very angry at the inhumane behavior of Yazid's troops, and were approaching Hussein now to allow them to go to his defense. There were only 32 horsemen and at least 40 more people who fought on foot in Hussein's camp. Some historians report there were 72 companions plus 18 members of Bani Hashim who were with Hussein at Karbala. At first, the Imam was reluctant to let his companions go out and fight the enemy. Then all of a sudden, the enemy attacked Hussein's camp in a great stampede. They wanted to take the small band by a storm, but the way Al-Hussein had fortified his camp at Karbala could only be termed as a masterpiece of defensive strategy. He had pitched his camp in an area which was surrounded by a chain of hills on three sides, thus forming a half moon. Then he had his tents pitched on so close to each other that their ropes were overlapped. From behind, a ditch had been dug and filled with dry wood. As soon as they began their assault, a fire was started in the ditch, and in this way the camp had been protected from three sides. In the front, the soldiers in Hussein's camp sat down on their knees and held their lances pointing outwards. Umar's forces rushed nearer and attacked the camp of Hussein, and an intense hand-to-hand combat took place, lasting a few hours. Thus the battle raged on and continued, with many being killed from both sides. One after another, Imam Hussein's companions went, as per the custom of the Arabs, to meet their challenger in a duel, boasting to the enemy about their noble ancestry and depending on their age. With their achievements in various wars fought alongside the Prophet and Ali or Hassan, reminding them of Hussein's relationship with Rasulullah and his daughter Fatima and Ali. Each companion would explain the justness of Hussein's cause, for which they were ready to sacrifice their lives in accordance with the Quran and the Prophet's way. Each of them prevailed over several opponents in single combat, and were only martyred when they were slyly attacked from behind, or when Yazid's soldiers shrewdly made the combined onslaught upon them. how amazing it was that a small band of 72 brave and thirsty soldiers kept a well-armed force of several thousand at bay for such a long time, forcing the enemy to retreat throughout the day. But the losses were now showing in Hussein's camp, and amongst the prominent companions of Hussein who were killed in this attack was Muslim ibn Awsaja, Abdullah ibn Umair al-Kalbi, and Janada ibn Ka'ab. In fact, all the horsemen among Hussein's companions were martyred, and this happened an hour before the time of midday prayers. It was now Salat al-Dhuhr. Abu Thumama, one of Hussein's loyal companions, realized that the sun had moved past its peak. He went over to the Imam and said to him, Sayyidi Aba Abdullah, before giving my life in your defense, I wish to offer midday prayers with you for the last time. The Imam alayhi salam raised his head and glanced into the sky and said, Dhakarta salat ja'alaka Allah min al-musallin al-dhakirin. You have remembered the prayers. May Allah raise you with those who have kept and established prayers. Yes, now it is time, he said. Go and ask the enemy to allow us time to perform our salat. Al-Hussein alayhi salam was determined to leave a legacy at every step. He showed by this act the importance of always performing salat regardless of the circumstances one may be facing. When the enemy was asked to cease fighting in order for the Imam to offer his prayers, an enemy shouted, Pray as much as you want, for your prayers will not be accepted. Habib ibn Mudahir responded, O drunkard, will they be accepted from you and not from the Prophet's grandson? The Imam with a group of his most faithful companions offered Salat al-Khawf, the prayer for those in fear, while Zuhair ibn al-Qayn and Sa'id ibn Abdullah stood in front of him, using their chest to shield and block the barrage of arrows intended for Hussein and the remaining companions who were offering their prayers. By the time they finished Salat, 13 arrows had struck Sa'id, causing him to fall to the ground. And before dying, he said, Ya Allah, damn the enemy with the same curse of Ad and Thamud. O Allah, convey my salutations to your Apostle Muhammad and inform him about the wounds I have sustained in defending his progeny and family. He then turned to Abi Abdullah and said, Have I not been loyal to you, Yabna Rasulillah? To which the Imam replied, Na'am anta amami fil Jannah. Yes, yes, Sa'id, you have. You will precede me into paradise. Sa'id then took his last breath and passed away in shielding his beloved Imam. After finishing the prayers, the enemy increased their onslaught at these brave, magnificent and courageous followers of Hussein, who despite being outnumbered, hungry and thirsty, remained faithful, loyal, committed and fearless in his defense. Both the young and old stood valiantly and amazingly managed to keep the powerful Kufan army of 1,000 at arm's length from first light until the afternoon on the 10th of Muharram. Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, only moments before the battle, who was Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, who only moments before the battle was the captain in Yazid's army. He had gone over to the Imam asking for forgiveness. Remorseful and repentant, he told the Imam that he wanted to go out and fight in his defense. Hur believed it was his fault for having placed Hussein in this deadly and dangerous situation. In Karbala, brothers and sisters, we learn many lessons, and it is never too late for us to repent and turn to Allah, as Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi did on the day of Karbala. Hur turned to Hussein and said to him, Yabna Rasulillah. He came up to him with his head lowered. Yabna Rasulillah, I was the first person to intercept you on your journey. Now I want to go out into battle against your enemies, so that I may receive the intercession of the Prophet Yawm al-Qiyamah. Hur kept on insisting on being allowed to go to battle. Al-Hussein then thought that the longer he stayed with him, the more he would suffer from guilt. So Al-Hussein eventually gave him permission to go. Go, Ya Hur, Allah be with you. Hur charged into the battlefield, for he was a very strong and brave soldier. He fought the battle gallantly and sent many of Yazid's men to hell. Such was his skill with the sword that though outnumbered, he killed enemy soldiers by the dozens. Hur rushed through the enemy ranks bravely using his sword, and very soon the odds began to fall against him. Eventually he was hurt, exhausted with the flow of blood from a deep head wound. He became dizzy and fell over from his horse, and even at that moment he had a desire to hear from Hussein's lips just once again that he had forgiven him, and gathering together all of his strength just before hitting the ground, he yelled out to the Imam, Alayka minni salam, Ya Aba Abdullah. Sayyidi, Master, come quickly, let me see you one last time. On hearing his call, Al-Hussein and Abbas rushed out from the camp, swords in hand, piercing the enemy ranks. They reached the place where Hur lay wounded. Hussein lifted Hur's head and placed it onto his lap. He cleaned the blood and tied a handkerchief which had been woven by his mother Fatima as a bandage for the wound. Opening his eyes, he looked straight into the Imam's eyes. Although Hur was speechless, his eyes said it all. Hussein understood the message, and he affectionately placed his hand on Hur's head, saying, My Allah bless you for the noble role you have placed today in befriending me. Hearing these words, Hur took his last breath with his head still resting on Hussein's lap. Turning towards him with tears in his eyes, Al-Hussein said, أنت حر كما سمتك أمك أنت حر في الدنيا وسعيد في الآخرة. Ya Hur, rightly did your mother call you Hur, for Hur means free, and you are a free man in this world and blessed in the hereafter. And then one by one Hussein's friends and companions too had gone into the battlefield and gave their lives for Islam and in defense of their beloved Imam. The friends and followers of Hussein who had gathered around him at Karbala were from different walks of life, but all of them had something in common: their unflinching devotion for their Hussein, their undying love and affection for the grandson of Rasulullah, their supreme faith in the justice of his cause. Burayd al-Hamadani, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, Muslim ibn Awsaja, Habib, Wahab and John and the rest of the companions were all slain in defending their beloved Imam. On every occasion when each of the loyal companions was fatally wounded, Al-Hussein together with Abbas and Ali al-Akbar and the others would rush out to be at the side of their dying friends. The companions would ask them whether they had any last wishes to express, and their reply was always, Usiqa bihadha al-gharib, I make it my last wish that you protect this lonely man. Those of them who were too wounded to speak would just point towards Hussein and by signs convey to the others that their last wish was that all the companions should fight to the bitter end in defense of Hussein, so that at least as long as they were alive, no enemy could dare inflict any wounds upon him. By midday, all the friends and companions were now martyred. Hussein alayhi salam was thirsty, tired and heartbroken, yet he remained steadfast. Patience was what kept him firm in his determination, and his sacrifice to save Islam was his goal. After all the companions had been martyred, his close relations and first cousins now came to the defense of their beloved Imam. First were the sons of Ja'far and Aqil, who were followed by the sons of Imam al-Hasan and the others from Bani Hashim. The family of Hussein, his first cousins, all came forward now to defend their beloved Imam, and they too were all martyred in defending their master. Yet some historians have reported that the first from Bani Hashim to go into the battlefield was his son Ali al-Akbar. Since dawn, Zainab alayha salam was watching the bodies being brought back to the tent, and one by one she called to her children, Aun and Muhammad. My sons, these two young teenage boys, she called out to them, what are you waiting for? Why have you not been to the battlefield yet? Go and fight the enemies of Islam and defend your uncle. They said, Mother, since dawn we have been to our uncle Hussein many times for permission to fight, but he keeps on refusing us, Mother. Mother, can you please help us? Ask our dear uncle to give us permission to go in his defense. Zainab alayhi salam called her brother to her tent and pleaded, Akhi Hussein, I have been like a mother to you, haven't I? To which he politely nodded his head in response. Akhi Hussein, your mother is begging you to let her, Aun and Muhammad, to go into the battlefield in your defense. Ukhayya Zainab, fighting is not compulsory for children. How can I let my sister's sons be killed while I am still alive? No, Ya Zainab, he tried telling her. Noticing the disappointment on her face and her eyes filled with tears, Al-Hussein alayhi salam had no choice but to submit to her request. Embracing and kissing his nephews, the Imam helped them mount their horses for the last time, telling them, Go, my nephews, go and show these beastly men that you have the blood of Ja'far and Ali in your veins. Aun and Muhammad looked at their mother for the last time and said, Fi amanillah, O mother, fi amanillah. Aun and Muhammad rode out to the battlefield. They fought bravely together, for they were the grandsons of Ja'far and Ali. They pushed the enemies back. Large numbers of Yazid's men were killed by these two young lads who fought side by side. And every time either of them succeeded in taking out an enemy, he would look proudly at their uncle Abbas, who would smile and nod his approval. Abbas and Hussein had watched the two nephews, the two brothers, fight so fiercely. Despite being thirsty for 3 days, Abbas, who had trained them in the art of sword fighting, was filled with pride and admiration. Now Umar ibn Sa'ad the Cursed was getting worried. He ordered his soldiers to separate these two young boys and then attack them from all sides. Each one was then surrounded by Yazid's men. The two brothers were attacked by horsemen with arrows, swords, spears and daggers from all directions. How much can two young children, thirsty, exhausted and hungry for 3 days, take from the onslaught? Eventually the excessive wounds took their tolls upon them, and before falling off their mounts they called out to their uncle, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Adrikna ya Hussein. Uncle, come quickly, come and help us, oh uncle. Al-Hussein and Abbas rushed to the battlefield and found the children badly wounded, kneeling down beside each of their nephews who was taking their last and final breath. Whispering their last words, they said, "Alayka minni salam, ya Aba Abdullah, O uncle. Our last salutations to you. Please give our last salams to our mother Zainab," they said. And after a brief moment, they died in the arms of their uncles. How much more could Hussein take? How much could his heart bear of suffering and loss? First he had lost all of his companions, and now his nephews. It was as if he had received a stab in his chest. Al-Hussein and Abbas, two brothers, one old and one young, were left to carry the bodies of a young nephew each back to the tent. On reaching their camp, Al-Hussein and Abbas laid the bodies of On and Muhammad on the ground. Their mother Zainab, who was waiting for their return, fell over the two bodies of her sons and cried, my sons, what mother is there to send her beloved children to meet death as I have sent mine?" And with tears streaming down her cheeks, she continued sobbing, "My darlings, you have gone from this world with your thirst unquenched. Your grandfather, Ali al-Murtada, will be there to quench your thirst in heaven. My beloved Aun and Muhammad, for Zainab, your mother, there is still a long, weary, unending future to face without you," she cried. Overpowered by grief and emotion, she fell unconscious on the dead body, screaming, "Wa Auna wa Muhammada." Yet some historians have reported that Zainab alayha salam did not cry on the day her children died, but she only cried until her return back to Medina. Al-Qasim came up to his uncle and requested permission to go and fight, and twice his uncle refused to allow him. Eventually, Al-Hussein alayhi salam agreed to grant his nephew permission to go and fulfill his destiny. For this was made possible only after Qasim had given his uncle a letter written by his late father, Imam al-Hasan, intervening on his behalf. For there he was, a young child with adult weapons. Qasim ibn al-Hasan was so young that his sword touched the ground as he walked. I visualized the scene, that Qasim, as he walked, his sword would be scraping the ground as he walked. Unable to mount his horse on his own, Al-Hussein alayhi salam held the horse, telling him, "Qasim, I shall not be long in joining you." Al-Hussein alayhi salam would help each of his relatives and nephews mount their horses as they went into the battlefield. The young fighter rode on to the battlefield, a rider whose feet did not reach the stirrups, but was very keen to save Islam and defend his dear uncle. As Qasim was riding out towards the battle, he could hear his uncle repeating softly, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." Al-Qasim stopped and turned around saying, "Ya Am, O uncle, do not be upset, for I do not fear death. Death for Islam will be sweeter than honey." And now, in a loud and clear voice, Al-Qasim introduced himself and cried out a challenge for single combat, telling the enemies, "In tankuruni fa ana ibn al-Hasan, صبت النبي المصطفى المؤتمن, هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن, بين أناس لا سقوا صوب المزن. If you deny knowing me, for I am the son of Al-Hassan, the descendant of Prophet Muhammad, his grandson. He told them, this is Hussein, like a prisoner held by a group of wicked men. For he was the young son of Imam al-Hassan, the grandson of Ali, whose face was shining like the moon. He too had been trained by his uncle Abbas. Al-Qasim fought so gallantly, fighting a battle history would never forget, killing several famous enemy forces that came forward in single combat. And every time an enemy would fall, Al-Qasim would stand on his stirrups and look behind and wave to his uncle Abbas, just as a pupil would seek approval of his teacher on any assignment. And Abbas alayhi salam, who would be watching, would proudly wave back at him. He was now repeatedly challenging the soldiers of Yazid alayhi la'na to come forward and match their skill and swordsmanship against him in single combat. Umar ibn Sa'ad, seeing that none of his men were prepared for this, he ordered his soldiers to attack the young lad altogether. It was now a struggle between one boy and thousands of men. If such a thing can at all be called a fight, how long can Qasim ward off the attacks of swords, spears and arrows coming at him from all directions? The onslaught of the enemy, who numbered in their thousands against Qasim, was horrendous. And this continued for some time. The attacks against Qasim continued for some time. And he was eventually fatally wounded. And as Qasim was fighting with the enemy that surrounded him, Amr ibn Sa'ad al-Azdi crept up from behind Qasim and struck him violently with his sword, splitting his tender head open. And when he saw he could no longer remain in the saddle, Al-Qasim gave a final cry, offering his salams to his uncle, calling out for help. أجركم الله السلام عليك يا عم يا أبا عبد الله أدركني يا عم يا حسين. The Imam quickly rushed out in response to his nephew's pleasing call. Searching for him, he found him lying on the ground, injured and wounded in agony. Al-Hussein flung himself down from his horse and fell to the ground, and as he did so, he saw his nephew digging the heels of his feet into the sand. As his soul departed from his badly wounded body, Al-Hussein placed his cheek affectionately on the torn chest of his nephew. Al-Hussein placed his cheek affectionately on the torn chest of his nephew Qasim. Al-Hussein lamented, grieving, بعدا لقوم قتلوك بعدا لقوم قتلوك ومن خصمهم يوم القيامة جدك وأبوك. Away, away with the people who have killed you, Ya Qasim, while their opponent on the day of judgment will be your grandfather and father. عز والله على عمك أن تدعوه فلا يجيبك أو يجيبك فلا ينفعك صوته. My God, what have these cowards done to you, Ya Qasim? It is with regret that your uncle has been helpless when you have called upon me, that I could not respond to your call, and when I did finally respond, there was nothing that I could do for you. The Imam gently lifted Qasim's lifeless body into his arms, carrying him with his feet dragging along the ground. He returned back to the tent site. When Hussein eventually reached the tent where the martyr's body were laid, He slowly lowered the dead body of his nephew to the ground. Then turning to the women and children, he cried out, Sabran, Sabran, Ya Bani Umumati, Sabran, Ya Ahl Bayti, La Raytum Hawanan Ba'da hadha al-yawmi abada. Patience, patience, O my relatives. Endure all that you can, O my Ahlul Bayt. For after this day you will not have to experience grief or hardship anymore. Qasim's mother Ramla, she asked, Al-Abi Abdullah, Aina waladi, where is my son Sayyidi? Al-Hussein, unable to speak and with eyes filled with tears, he opened the rope and revealed the battered body of her son. Zainab held her aching heart. Mother fell with a scream and fainted. Aywa Qasimah wa walada. Following the martyrdom of Aun and Muhammad and Qasim, Ali al-Akbar, the life of Hussein, the teenage son of Hussein, the darling son of Hussein. Now he came to his father with a heavy heart requesting, Abba Halli min rukhsa, Father, may I have now permission to go into battle? Allahu Akbar. Imagine the scene. Put your hand on your head and think. Put your hand on your heart and think of what is happening here. A teenage son has come to his father for permission to go and die. How does a father allow his teenage son, who is 18 years old, to go and leap into the jaws of death? What does Imam Hussein do now? How does he allow his darling son to go forward and fight? But Hussein is helpless. His promise to Allah had to be honored. Turning to his son, he says to him, Ya waladi, a'udhu wallah alayya firaquk. Being separated from you is so hard, Ya Ali. فقال علي الأكبر, why, O father, كيف يا أبتا وأنت وحيدا بين الأعداء فريدا لا ناصر لك ولا معين روحي لروحك الفدايا ونفسي لنفسك الوقاء. He said to his father, how would it be otherwise, O father, whilst you are alone, surrounded by the enemy soldiers, without anyone to help you and come to your aid? Al-Hussein turned to Ali and said, Bunay Ali, I wish you had become a father, Then you would have known what I am experiencing at this moment. But my son, the call of duty makes me helpless in this matter. My son Ali, go, for you have my permission. But Ya Ali Akbar, go and ask permission from your dear mother Layla. Go and get permission from your auntie Zainab, who has brought you up from childhood and loved you and cared for you more than her own sons. Go and seek their permission, his father told him. After bidding farewell to his mother and aunt for the last time, Ali al-Akbar returned to his father with signs of sorrow and sadness depicted on his face. Hussein alayhi salam then imprinted a What a resemblance Ali Akbar had, With who did Ali Akbar have a resemblance with? What a resemblance Ali Akbar had with the Holy Prophet in face, features and even mannerism. The older ones from amongst the enemy were blinking their eyes in amazement and wondering whether the Prophet had himself descended from the heavens to warn them against the shedding of Hussein's blood. Ali al-Akbar now came forward and introduced himself to his foes, boasting. Ali al-Akbar approached the enemy, introduced himself to them, saying, "Ana Ali ibn Husayn ibn Ali, nahnu wa baytullah awla bin nabi, at'anukum bir-rumhi am hatta yanthani, adribukum bis-sayfi ahmi an abi, ضرب غلام هاشمي علوي والله لا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي." What did Ali tell the enemy? "I am Ali ibn al-Husayn, the son of Ali. By God and his prophet we are closest to thee. I'll strike you so hard I'll bend my knee. Destroying you with my sword I'll defend my father in plea, in such a way that fits a young man of Alawi. By God those born of adultery can never rule us freely." Ali al-Akbar now roared and attacked the troops, fighting bravely like a true warrior, killing many well-known enemy soldiers. He'd received several gaping wounds in the course of his victorious combat. He was fast losing blood, and the effect of his thirst was intensifying with every second that was passing. He realized that the treacherous enemies would attack him all at once, for they were cowards, An irresistible urge to see his dear ones for the last time made him turn his horse towards the camp. Al-Hussein had been watching the heroic battles of his son, whilst Layla and Zainab were watching the face of Hussein, for they knew that if any calamity befell Ali al-Akbar, then Hussein's facial expression would indicate something. The Imam alayhi salam then turned to Layla, the mother of Ali al-Akbar, and advised her to go into the tent and pray for her son's safety, telling her, "Ya Layla, the dua of a mother is always answered." Raising her arms towards the sky, unveiling her hair, Layla prayed, "Ilahi bi ghurbati Abi Abdullah, Ilahi bi atashi Abi Abdullah, Ya Rad Yusuf ila Yaqub, اردد إلي ولدي عليا." Oh my Lord, I plead with you. Oh Lord, I plead with you by the loneliness of Abi Abdullah, by the thirst of Abu Abdullah, who reunited Jacob with his son Joseph in response to the father's prayers. Grant us one wish, to see Ali al-Akbar just one last time. Ali al-Akbar somehow made his way back to his father Al-Hussein, who was anxiously waited for him. Ali al-Akbar turned to his father and pleaded, Abba, al-atash qad qatalani, wa thiql al-hadid qad ajhadani. Oh father, the thirst is killing me, and the weight of this coat of mail is exhausting me. Father, a few drops of water, I am so thirsty. If I could just have a little water. Al-Hussein turned to him and said, Bunay Ali, come near me and feel my tongue. See if you can get some comfort from me. Ali al-Akbar felt his father's tongue and said, Abba ya Hussein, your mouth is much drier than mine. You must be more thirsty than I am. The Imam comforted his son, promising, Bunay Ali, irja' ila al-ma'raka ya ma asra' al-multaqa bijaddika al-murtada fayasqika bika'sihi shurbatan la tadma'u ba'daha abada. Bunay Ali, return to the battlefield. Soon you will be reunited. You will be met by your grandfather Ali al-Murtada, who will quench your thirst from the heavenly springs of Kawthar, after which you will never be thirsty again. So go, my son, go. As Ali Akbar rode away for the second time, Al-Hussein walked behind Ali for some distance. With his hands raised, Al-Hussein turned to Allah and prayed, اللهم اشهد على هؤلاء القوم فقد برز إليهم غلام أشبه الناس برسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا وكنا إذا اشتقنا إلى رؤية نبيك نظرنا إلى هذا الغلام. What did Hussein pray? He said, Ya Allah, bear witness that I have sent my son who bears a strong resemblance to your Prophet Muhammad in appearance, features and even mannerism. Whenever we crave to see your Prophet Muhammad, we used to gaze at this young lad's face. Al-Hussein sat on the ground as if trying to listen expectantly to some call from the battlefield. Ali al-Akbar entered the lines of the enemy. Umar ibn Sa'ad alayhi al-la'na, he ordered his soldiers to attack Ali Akbar and kill him straight away. He was quickly surrounded and attacked from every side. Amidst the raging swords and spears that were being driven into the body of Ali Akbar, an arrow was shot through the air that ripped into his throat. Ali Akbar, now badly wounded, continued to ward off the enemy blows that had gathered around him as he was busy in fighting, trying to fend off his attackers. Murra ibn Munqidh al-Abdi alayhi al-la'na, he crept out from behind a tree and plunged his spear into Ali Akbar's chest. Unable to keep himself balanced on his mount, Ali placed his head on the mane of the horse, wrapping his arms around the horse's neck. And the horse, now struck with fear, instead of retreating and returning back to the safety of the camp, it ran straight into the enemy ranks, who pounced upon Ali Akbar, bludgeoning their swords into his body. Powerless to stay on his horse any longer, he let out a final cry to his father Al-Hussein. Ya Abata, alayka minni salam. No sooner did he fall to the ground that the wild and brutal soldiers surrounded him and began violently striking their swords and lances into the badly wounded body. Ajarakumullah. Al-Hussein then rushed to the battlefield, calling out to his son, Wa walada, wa aliya, my son, my Ali Akbar, where are you? Eventually, Al-Hussein found him lying on the sand, saturated in his own blood, with both his hands covering a deep chest wound. The Imam alayhi salam, he quickly bent down over his son. He placed his cheek over Ali al-Akbar's face and he cried over his body, Qatalullahu qawman qataluk. Qatalallahu qawman qataluk. May Allah kill those who have killed you, Ya Bunay. Ma ajra'ahum ala Allah wa ala intihaki hurmati Rasul. How dare they insult Allah and violate the sanctity of His Prophet's household. يعز والله على جدك وأبيك أن تدعوهم فلا يجيبوك وتستغيث بهم فلا يغيثوك. It is so hard on your grandfather and father that you call upon them for help which they cannot provide you. Bunay Ali ala dunya ba'daka al-afaf. For life, Ya Ali, it is not worth living after you have gone. أما أنت فقد استرحت من هم الدنيا وغمها وبقي أبوك لهمها وكربها. Now, my son, you are at rest from the grievances of this world. As for your father, he has remained to worry about its anguish. As Hussein embraced the body of his son, whose breathing was now getting heavier, suddenly Ali al-Akbar opened his eyes and a faint smile appeared on Ali Akbar's lips. As Ali Akbar al-Hussein embraced the body of his son, whose breathing was now getting heavier, suddenly Ali Akbar opened his eyes and a faint smile appeared on his lips, as if he had seen something. Then soon after, an expression of grief emerged on Ali al-Akbar's face. Al-Hussein asked him, Bunay Ali, what is it, my son? What made you smile then suddenly upset you, Ya Ali Akbar? أبتاه أما تبسمي فإذا نظرت إلى هذه الجهة أرى جدي رسول الله وبيده الكأس الأوفى الذي وعدتني به. Oh Father, Aba Abdullah, I saw my grandfather Rasulullah holding a cup of water in his hands, telling me to come to him. This made me really excited and happy, oh Father. But then, وَأَمَّا بُكَائِي فَإِنِّي إِذَا نَظَرْتُ إِلَى هَذِهِ الْجَهَةِ أرى جدة الزهراء جالسة إلى جنبي تنظر إلى جراحاتي ثم تنظر إلى وجهك فتلتم رأسها بيدها كلما سقطت من عينك دمعة وهي تبكي وولدها وحسينا. And oh Father, but then I saw my grandmother Fatima al-Zahra. She was standing over you and crying, وَوَلَدَ وَحُسَيْنَا. My darling, what will they do to you next? And when remained standing, Ali ibn al-Hussein Zayn al-Abidin lay sick in his tent, unable to move. There was no one left to protect our Imam and defend him and his camp from the ruthless, ferocious beasts surrounding him. Now Abbas, Abul Fadl al-Abbas, he walked up to his brother with his head lowered and asked, Mawlai Aba Abdullah, hal li min rukhsah. Mawlai Aba Abdullah, now I have your permission to go into the battlefield. Al-Hussein alayhi salam wept as he comforted his brother, reminding him, no, Ya Abbas, no. How can I let you go? For you are the captain of my army. You are my right-hand man, Ya Abbas, you are my support. Where would I be without you, Ya Abul Fadl? You are the holder of my banner and colors. If you are slain, who will then defend my camp after I am dead? Al-Abbas saw the death toll rising after his brothers Abdullah, Uthman and Ja'far entered the battlefield until they too were martyred. Seeing his nephews Aun and Muhammad as well as Qasim together with Ali al-Akbar also fall martyrs, Abbas was now becoming restless and could not take it any longer. Somehow he must get permission from his master Hussein. He walked to the tents of where his sisters Kulthum and Zainab were, and then he turned back, for he knew they wouldn't let him go. Al-Abbas walked to Hussein's tent several times and back again, thinking on how to persuade his brother to give him permission. When just then his young niece Sukaina, carrying her water bag, her empty water bag, came up to her uncle and said, Amma ya Abbas, look at my water bag, it is very dry. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, ya Am. Sukaina and the children, we are so thirsty, uncle. And lifting her up in his arms, he went over to Hussein's tent and he sat in front of his brother with Sukaina on his lap. Abbas alayhi salam didn't have to say anything. The Imam looked at him and then at Sukaina and at the water bag she was carrying, for he understood his brother's subtle message. Abbas, how can I say no now? You have brought Sukaina with you. Go. Of who he was. And now with Hussein's permission, Abbas marched out of the camp with a sword in one hand and the flag in the other and the water bag on his shoulder, and with a group of children following him up to the edge of the camp. How Hussein had repeatedly requested him to avoid fighting as much as possible and restrain himself to the task of bringing back the water only. Abbas rode out towards the enemy and warned them against the shedding the sacred blood of Hussein, the grandson of Rasulullah. But it was pointless, as their hearts and minds were set on their murder regardless. With the aim of bringing water for his dear niece Sukaina, Abbas had charged on the enemy who held the river banks. He had run through them bravely like a fearless hero. A true warrior was Abbas ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. Again, this escalating onslaught of the cowards could not stand and had run away from the path of Abbas, shouting for protection. Suddenly there was a pause and Abbas quickly took advantage of the situation. Abbas took advantage of the situation and galloped towards the cool waters of the river. Once there, he quickly threw down the empty water bags into the river to fill them up. And in doing so, he bent over. He scooped some cool, refreshing water into his hand to quench his dying thirst, but only to remember the thirst of his master and Mawla al-Hussein, as well as the women and children. With a feeling of guilt, he threw back the water into the river as if to say, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Hussein huni, وبعده لا كنت أن تكوني هذا الحسين شارب المنون وتشربين بارد المعين. O my soul, after Hussein humiliation equals revival. For after him forget your own survival. This is Hussein drinking the syrup of death while you drink cool water instead. How could he drink water when Sukaina and children were deteriorating without it? How could he forget that his master Al-Hussein had not had a drop of water for 3 days? And now with a firm determination, he jumped into the saddle with one thought on his mind: to provide water to the anxiously waiting and children as quickly as possible. Seeing him galloping back towards the camp of Hussein, the enemy turned on him. A soldier shouted from the enemy ranks, "What, that if Hussein and his people got the water, it would be difficult to fight them on the battlefield." Abbas alayhi salam stopped and saw that his path was now completely blocked by the enemy. He stood up in his saddle and with a cheerful smile said to his foes before him, "I have no fear of death, for I am Abul Fadl al-Abbas, the water provider, and I fear not death, and I fear not from death on this day of warfare." On hearing Abbas, the wicked men acknowledged him and his courage with a tremendous roar. At once he kicked his stallion forward and charged into their midst and fought gallantly and furiously, killing many infidels before him, until a ruthless man swung at Abbas with a sword from behind, cutting off his right hand. Abbas ignored the injury to his right hand, and at the surprise of his enemies closing in on him, he again addressed them with a defiant saying, "Wallahi in qata'tumu yamini, inni uhami abadan an dini, وعن إمام صادق اليقين نجل النبي الطاهر الأمين." That even if you cut off my right hand, I will still fight for my religion and for my Imam, who is a true believer in Allah, the Prophet's grandson, who is noble and faithful. Al-Abbas quickly took the sword into his left hand, flashing it before them, and continued to fight them furiously until his left hand withal was also severed. He swiftly took hold of the water skins and the water bags with what? He took hold of the water bags with the grip of his teeth. Abbas made a determined charge through these swarming rivals around him, heading back towards the safety of the camp. But Umar ibn Sa'ad, sensing his prey would escape his grasp, he commanded all his archers, "Surround Abbas to fire their arrows at him from all sides at will." A deadly shower of arrows pierced into the body, fatally and critically wounding Abul Fadl, Ajarakumullah. Al-Abbas, imagine Abbas with no hands on his horse, holding the water in the grip of his teeth. Abbas looked in despair as the arrows pierced the water skin and saw its precious water pouring down onto the sand. When an arrow finally found its deadly mark and pierced and buried itself into his chest over his heart, and another arrow embedded itself into his right eye. Despite his injuries, Al-Abbas still did not give up fighting, and without any hands to grasp with, he now tried frantically in vain to shake out the deeply lodged arrow in his eye. Abbas shook his head furiously from one side to another, but only to dislodge the helmet of his head, which fell to the ground, when an evil man from Bani Tamim with a long iron bar swiftly struck Abbas hard on the crown of his bare and unprotected head, splitting Abbas's head open. Aywa Abbas wa madluma. And now seriously wounded and stung from the blow, which was bleeding, streaming down over his face, he tried to stay mounted, but Abbas swayed and lost balance. And with one last effort, with all the strength that was left within him, what did Abbas do? He shouted, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Oh master, do come to me before I die. Al-Abbas, now dazed from his wounds, he was sent crashing down headfirst into the sand, with his severed stumps digging into the ground and the arrows sinking even deeper into his body and also into his eye. Rahimallahu man nada wa Abbasa. Rahimallahu man nada wa madluma. When moments later Abbas could sense someone approaching him. Imagine Abbas's condition, with no hands, with an arrow in his eye, bleeding profusely. Abbas, he's on the ground and he could feel or see someone approaching him. But Abbas was unable to know who the person was due to an arrow being lodged in his eye and blood covering the other. He pleaded with them not to kill him, telling that person that he wanted to see his brother just one last time. He said to them, Ya Hada, I beg you not to kill me, just spare me, for I am waiting for my brother to come to me. Please just spare me a moment while. Spare me a little longer, for I am waiting for my master Al-Hussein. Seeing Abbas in such a pitiful and helpless state, Akhi Abbas, it is I, your brother Al-Hussein, came the reply. Relieved at hearing his brother Hussein's voice, he said to him, You have come at last, my master. I thought I was not destined to farewell you for the last time, Ya Aba Abdullah. Seeing the dreadful condition of his younger brother Abbas, with his body pierced by arrows, made Hussein's heart ache. With hands on his back, Al-Hussein acknowledged his fate, saying, الآن انكسر ظهري وقلت حيلتي وشمت بي عدوي. Now my back has been broken and my means have been devastated. My flag bearer is gone, I have no support, and the enemy rejoices at my loss, Ya Abbas. Witnessing his brother lying on the ground with both arms severed, imagine how Al-Hussein felt when he saw his brother's deplorable condition. Abbas, Akhi Abbas, what have they done to you, Habibi Abbas? What, you are also leaving me too? What will I do without you, Ya Abul Fadl? For you are my support and I am finished without you. Hussein alayhi salam sat beside his brother and affectionately placed Abbas. He picked up Abbas's head and placed it on his lap. But Abbas moved his head away and placed it back onto the sand. 3 times Al-Hussein would do this, will lift up his brother Abbas's head and place it onto his lap, but Abbas would move it away. Al-Hussein inquired, Why, Ya Abul Fadl, won't you allow me to do this? Al-Abbas replied, Sayyidi Aba Abdullah, Anta al-an ta'khudhu bi ra'si, walakinna ba'da sa'a man ya'khudhu bi ra'sik. Mawlay Aba Abdullah, replied Abbas, the thought when you will be breathing your last, nobody will be there to place your head in a lap to comfort you. It makes me feel that it would be better if my head lies on the sand when I die, just as yours would be. Besides, I am your servant and you are my master, Abu Abdullah. It is too much for me to place my head on your lap. Hussein then tried to lift up his younger brother Abbas to carry him back to the tent. But Abbas turned to him and said, Aba Abdullah akhi ya Hussein, please do not carry my body back to the tent, for I am ashamed of myself. Why are you ashamed, ya Abbas? I am ashamed of myself and too embarrassed. I do not want Sukaina and the children, who I promised to bring back the water, to see me in this terrible condition. I do not want my sisters Zainab and Kulthum to see me like this. The faithful and courageous Abbas, moments later, died in his brother's arms, and Hussein remained like that for some time, grieving over his brother's body, lamenting, Wa akha wa Abbasa. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is standing now outside his camp. He is alone, and now himself he was preparing to go into the battlefield, mounting his horse and riding out to confront the enemy. Al-Hussein alayhi salam, he makes a loud and final appeal to the inhabitants of the earth, inviting people to his aid. He calls out, Hal min dhabin yadubbu an harami Rasulillah, Hal min muwahhidin yakhafu Allahu fina. Is there anyone to help us? Is there anyone to help us? Is there any defender to stop the enemy from reaching the tents of the Prophet's family? But there was no reply. Then he continued, no, there is no one to help me prevent the mob from harming the daughters of Rasulullah. This cry of Hussein for help had no impact on the conscience of those stone-hearted soldiers who just stood there dumbfounded. For this reason, the Imam then turned to his attention to who did he turn his attention to now? Al-Hussein alayhi salam then turned his attention to the sacred bodies of his martyred companions and family members, addressing them saying, Ya Habib ibn Mudahir, Ya Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, wa ya Muslim ibn Awsaja, wa ya Abtal al-Safa, wa ya Fursan al-Hayja. ما لي أناديكم فلا تسمعون ما لي أناديكم فلا تسمعون وأدعوكم فلا تجيبون أأنتم نيام أرجوكم تنتبهون. يا حبيب بن مظاهر أو زهير بن القين أو مسلم بن عوسجة, O brave and courageous warriors of the day of encounter, why don't you respond to my call when I am calling you? He said, for I am talking to you, but you are not responding. For I know you are sleeping, and I am hoping that you wake up from your sweet slumber. The fallen soldiers, the fallen martyrs that lay on the ground began to tremble in obedience to the Imam's call. But Hussein commanded them to stay in their places as they had performed their duty, and that his appeals were intended only for the living. Hussein alayhi salam's call for help went unanswered. Instead, he heard the sound of Zainab crying from the camp. Al-Hussein alayhi salam turned around and said, Zainab, your brother is still alive. Why are you crying? Akhi Hussein, when you called out, هل من ناصر ينصرنا? Is there anyone to help us? Your infant Ali Akbar, Ali Asghar, your infant son, 6 months old Ali Asghar, fell from his cradle. Hussein returned and saw the pitiable scene, for he knew what the young infant was trying to say. The Imam picked up the baby and said, I will take him with me and ask the army of Yazid to provide him water. Surely they cannot possibly deny this little infant a few drops of water to quench his thirst. His mother had no milk to provide to this young boy who was now dying of thirst. He then spread a piece of cloth covering his dying child from the scorching heat of the sun. He approached the enemy. Umar ibn Sa'ad began gazing at the Imam and at that which he was carrying in his arms. He mounted and elevated that spot. Al-Hussein alayhi salam mounted an elevated spot and removed the cloth that covered his young infant. Lifting him up in his arms, Al-Hussein appealed to the satanic forces before him, telling them, يا قوم قد قتلتم إخوتي وأولادي وأنصاري وما بقي غير هذا الطفل. You have killed my children. You have killed my brothers, my children, and my helpers. No one except for this infant of mine is left. Of what crime can you accuse this child? You blame me for not acknowledging Yazid as the Khalif. But can any law, any religion, or any sane mind lay any charge against this infant? This child is about to die of thirst. His mother has left her milk. His mother has lost her milk through lack of water. Please, I asked, just a few drops to refresh the child of mine. If you think that I am using him as an excuse to get water from you, I will leave him in your arms. I will leave him in your arms. You may then quench his thirst and return him to me. When Umar ibn Sa'ad saw the magical effect of Hussein's words, he yelled out to his expert archer Harmala to reply, وَيْلَكِ يَا حَرْمَلَا اقْطَعْ نِزَاعَ الْقَوْمِ. Ya Harmala, what are you waiting for? Quickly silence him, he said. Harmala ibn Kahil al-Asadi, who had no equal in cruelty and wickedness, was a skilled bowman. He lifted up his bow and brought out a 3-headed arrow from his quiver. Adjusting it in his bow, he aimed and shot it towards the tiny little neck of the child in Hussein's arms. Seeing the flying arrow coming towards his way, the Imam quickly protected the infant he was carrying. But the arrow penetrated and pierced both his arms and the child's neck. Hussein, now wounded, pulled out the arrow which pinned his arm to the neck of the young infant. The innocent baby, unable to bear the wound from the arrow, which slit his tiny tender neck open. Suddenly Ali Asghar stretched out his arms, embraced his father Al-Hussein, and began to flap them like a bird that had been slaughtered, when soon after his body just froze, and a faint smile appeared on the young baby's face as he died in his father's arms. Ashamed to carry the dead baby of the infant to his mother, and worried that the enemy might sever the head of young Ali Asghar and have it mounted on top of a spear, which at the end they ultimately did anyway, Hussein deemed it necessary to have him buried in the field of Karbala. Using his sword, he dug a small grave and buried his son with his own hands. Yet in some other accounts it is said that he took the young infant back to his mother, Ar-Rabab. Al-Hussein returned back towards the tent carrying his lifeless body of his son. The young infant Ali al-Asghar, Sukaina, his sister, she was delighted. She was happy. She was delighted at seeing her father return with her young baby brother. She ran up to her father and asked him, Abba ya Hussein, لعلك سقيت أخي الماء وجئت فَأَسْقَيْتَنَا بِالْبَقِيَّةِ. Father, tell me, did you quench the thirst of my brother and bring us back the remainder of the water? فقال الحسين بني خذي أخاك. فقال الحسين بني خذي أخاك مذبوحا من الوريد إلى الوريد. My daughter Sukaina, take the body of your dead brother who has been murdered mercilessly. He has been killed with his throat slit from one end to the other. Overwhelmed by the revelation, Sukaina cried, Wa akha, wa Abdullah. Ar-Rabab, the baby's mother, anxiously waiting for Hussein to enter the tent with her young toddler. And baby turning to the Imam and said, Sayyidi Aba Abdullah, Ayna tifli al-Radi'a, Ayna waladi Abdullah. Al-Hussein, choked in tears, could only say, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. For Abab, the shock was just too much for her, and in a loud cry she screamed, Aywa walada, Aywa Aliyah. By the afternoon, our Imam had been inflicted with so much suffering and grief in just a few hours. So many dead in one day. Al-Hussein, Wahidan Farida. Al-Hussein, thirsty, tired and heartbroken, is alone. Casting a look at the brutal and inhumane troops that resembled a torrent now surrounding him, Al-Hussein alayhi salam raised his hands supplicating, Allahumma anta thiqati fi kulli kar wa raja'i fi kulli shidda wa anta li fi kulli amrin nazala bi thiqatun wa udda. My Lord, you are my trust in every adversity. You are my hope in every hardship. You are to me my trust and treasure for whatever afflicts me. كم من هم يضعف فيه الفؤاد وتقل فيه الحيلة ويخذل فيه الصديق ويشمت فيه العدو أنزلته بك وشكوته إليك. How many worries, Ya Allah, have you removed and dissolved that overburdened my heart, exhausted my plans, betrayed my friends, and elated my enemy, which I complained to you, Ya Allah. رغبة مني إليك عمن سواك فكشفته وفرجته فأنت ولي كل نعمة ومنتهى كل رغبايا. Having placed my hope upon you, my Lord, you are the originator of every blessing and the ultimate end of every wish. Hussein, he then walked over to the tents of his brothers. He looked inside and he found them to be empty. He then went over to his cousin's tent, the sons of Aqil, and they too were also empty. He continued to the tents of his companions and also found them the same. And as he did so, he was repeatedly uttering, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. There is no might or strength except with Allah the Almighty. Then our Imam walked over to the tents of the women and children and called out, Ya Sukaina, Ya Sukaina, Ya Fatima, Ya Zainab, يا أم كلثوم عليكن مني السلام فهذا آخر الاجتماع وقد قرب منكن الافتجاع أو سكينة أو فاطمة أو زينب يا أم كلثوم, peace be with you. This is our final gathering. Your time of great tribulation and sorrow has now approached. The women and children gathered around the Imam, weeping and crying as they said their last farewell. Ukhayya Zainab said, Hussein, take me to my son Zainul Abidin. Let me bid him farewell for the last time. They went to the tent of his son and saw that he had fallen unconscious due to severe illness. Sensing his father's presence, Ali Zainul Abidin struggled to open his eyes, and when he did, he tried to get up in respect of his father Al-Hussein. But Ali Zainul Abidin was unable to do so. Turning to his auntie Zainab, he said, Ya Amma, lend me your support so that I may sit up. Zainab sat on the bed as her nephew leaned against her, and he sat facing his father Al-Hussein. He asked his father, Ya Abata, Ya Hussein, what news is there of your affairs with these people? Imagine, Ali Zain al-Abidin still has no knowledge of what has happened throughout the day. What news is there, O father, of your affairs with these people? Al-Hussein explained to him, Ya waladi, istahwada alayhum al-shaytan, فأنساهم ذكر الله. Oh my son, Ya Ali, Shaitan has succeeded with these people and has driven away from their hearts the remembrance of Allah. A mighty battle has taken place between us and them, and the plains of Karbala are covered with our blood. Al-Hussein alayhi salam continued, Bunay Ali, I have come to say goodbye to you now. I too am now leaving to go to fight. Zain al-Abidin, who due to illness had been confined to his bed, totally oblivious and unaware of what had transpired throughout the day. He looked at his father in despair and he asked in a destroyed voice, but why you, O father? Why you, O father, are you going into the battlefield? Where are your companions and friends? Where is Habib ibn Mudahir? Where is Muslim ibn Awsija? Where is Zuhair ibn al-Qayn? Al-Hussein alayhi salam replied, killed, my son. They have all been killed. Ali then asked his father, Aina ibn Ammi al-Qasim? Where is my son, my cousin Qasim? His father replied, Qutil, he too has been killed. Abata, Aina Ali, Akhi Ali Akbar? Then where is my brother, at least Ali al-Akbar? His father replied, Qutil, Ya Ali. Abata, Aina Ammi al-Abbas? Then at least where is my brave uncle Abbas? Tell me, where is my uncle? Al-Hussein cried as he wept and he said, Qutil, Ya Ali. Tears poured from Hussein, and Zainab's cried as his son inquired about his loved ones. To which Hussein then said to him, Ya Bunay, A'lam annahu laysa fil khiyam rajulun illa ana wa ant. Bunay Ali, do know that no one is left. There is nobody left except you and I, said the Imam. Ali Zainul Abidin, he wept then requested, hand me my sword and cane, Ya Amma Zainab. Why do you ask for your sword and cane? Asked his father. The cane to support myself while I defend the son of Rasulullah with my sword. For life has no worth after you, Ya Abata. على الدنيا بعدك العفا. The Imam embraced and comforted him, saying, Ya Ali, you are the purest and the noblest of my descent. You are the guardian in my place of these destitute and oppressed orphans and widows. They have no one except you to save them from their enemies. Be kind to them and a source of comfort. Then he called out, Ukhayya Zainab, Ya Kulthum, Ya Sukayna, Ruqayya, O Fatima. Hear my words and understand that this son of mine will assume my position after me. For he is the Imam whose obedience is obligatory. His final words to his son was to pass a message on to his Shia, telling them, Oh, my followers, tell my followers, Ya Bunay, that whenever you drink refreshing water, do remember me. And whenever you hear of a martyr or a lonely person, mourn for me. For I am the son of the Prophet who was martyred with cruelty. Then they had the horses' hooves trample me on purposely. Al-Hussein alayhi salam conveyed his last will to his son, passing on to him the authority of the Imamah. Then he embraced him affectionately for the final time. Knowing this was the final farewell, turning to his sister, he said, Ukhayya Zainab, my last will to you all. I am leaving you in charge of this caravan. Zainab, Allah said, Qalb Zainab, how much can she bear? Zainab, take care of my son Zainul Abidin. I am leaving the Imamate under your protection. Oh, my sister Zainab, look after my Sukaina, look after my Ruqayya and the children, for they will cry after my death. They will cry over me. Before our Imam engaged in his final battle with the encircling enemy, who was still thirsty for his blood, Al-Hussein looked at the place where he had gathered the bodies of his devotees and found 72 men from amongst his loyal companions, together with 18 members of his own family. Then he called out to the women and children once again. Zainab came out of the tent in response to her brother's calls. Zainab said to the women, widows and orphans, telling them, قوموا إلى التوديع إن أخي دعا بجواده. Everyone, ladies and children, women, come up, for my beloved brother is now leaving. فإن أخي دعا بجواده إن الفراق طويل. Everyone, women and children, please get up, for my beloved brother is now leaving us, departing never to return. The Imam wept as he offered them his last farewell. May the Most Exalted not make you weep. Why do you shed tears, Akhi Aba Abdullah? Asked Zainab. How should I not cry when you will be driven between the enemies? Replied the Imam. The wailing and the cries from the women and children could be heard as the Imam, he spoke to them for the last time, surrounding Hussein from inside. Now imagine this final farewell, by the widows and the orphans with their Imam. Surrounding Hussein from each side, they took hold of him, not wanting to let go of their Imam. هذه تقبل رأسه وتلك تقبل وجهه وأخرى تقبل يديه ورجليه وتنادي إلى أين يا حمانا يا إلى أين يا رجانا. They all grabbed and took hold. They all took hold and began kissing his head. They all grabbed him and others began to kiss his face. Some were kissing his hands, feet, crying, where to, oh our protector? Where are you going? For you our last hope and refuge, they pleaded. Hussein alayhi salam then noticed that his young daughter Sugaina wasn't there with the women and children. He asked his sister Zainab, where is Sugaina? He said to her, she is in her tent weeping and wailing. Al-Hussein then went into the tent. He went and he saw Sukaina on the ground with her head placed between her knees, sobbing. Turning to her, he asked her, why are you weeping? Reminding her that he was still alive, to which she asked, are you Abba ya Hussein? كأنك استسلمت للموت. أبا يا حسين كأنك استسلمت للموت. Oh father, it is as though you have surrendered to death. Choked with tears, he replied, بني سكينة وكيف لا يستسلم للموت من لا ناصر له ولا معين. Oh Sukaina, how can one without any helper and supporter but not submit to death? She wept at the thought of being separated from her beloved father. Hussein embraced her with such affection and loving, gently wiping her tears, telling her, سيطول بعد يا سكينة فاعلمي سيطول بعد يا سكينة فاعلمي منك البكاء إذا الحمام دهان لا تحرق قلبي بدمعك حسرة ما دام من الروح في جثماني. He said to her, "Oh dear Sukaina, do know that it is going to be prolonged your grieving and mourning after my martyrdom. Don't burn my heart and soul with your tears of despair. So long as I am alive, my soul still remains within me." Sukaina fondly glanced into the eyes of her father and innocently asked as she sobbed, "Abba, tell me, are you not going out for the last time, never to return? Are you not leaving your Sukaina forever?" "Oh father, how would I live without you? When you brought the dead bodies of my brothers Ali al-Akbar and Ali al-Asghar, I thought that their loss would kill me. But then the thought that you were there to console us and be with us sustained me. When then you informed me that my uncle Abbas had gone to heaven and that I would not see him again, my heart sank within me. But you consoled me, Father. But tell me, Abba, when you are gone, who will be there to share our grief and sorrow, to speak to us a few words of comfort? With whom shall I share my distress, pain, misery, and anguish?" She hugged her father, crying and pleading, "No, Father, I will not let go of you," she said. Hussein reminded her to be patient, telling her there would be more suffering and agony to follow after his death. The Imam alayhi salam now mounted his horse, and as he was about to depart, he suddenly heard a voice calling from behind, "Abba ya Hussein, Abba ya Hussein, li ilayka hajah." "Father, wait, I have one last request." The Imam pulled the stirrups or the straps of the reins. He looked down and found Sukaina clinging onto the horse's legs. Hussein asked, "What is it, my darling Sukaina?" She replied, "Abba ya Hussein, حاجتي أن تنزل من على ظهر جوادك إلى الأرض. أريد أن أودعك وداع اليتامى." "Father, I request you come down off your horse. I wish to bid you farewell the orphan's way. أريد أن تجلسني في حجرك وتمسح على رأسك ما يمسح على رؤوس الأيتام." Take me into your lap one last time and stroke my head as you would an orphan. The Imam dismounted, sat next to Sukaina and caressed her lovingly, delicately drying the tears from her eyes. She looked at her father and requested, "Abba, every night I used to come to you and sleep on your chest. Now that will not be possible anymore. How I wish I could sleep on your chest for the last time, so that I could carry its memories for the rest of my life." Imagine what was going through Hussein's mind. What words could we use to describe the events at that moment? With a heavy heart, Hussein lay down on the burning sands and lovingly embraced his darling daughter, while she rested her head on her father's chest and lay there crying silently for some time. Abba, please stroke your head gently over my head in the same way they do with the orphans." For Hussein knew exactly what she meant by that, fulfilling her final wishes. He comforted her for some time, then told her to return back to the tent. As Hussein was about to ride on for the last agonizing time, as Imam al-Hussein was about to ride onto his horse for the last agonizing time, Al-Hussein, he felt the presence of now someone else approaching from behind. Al-Hussein turned around slowly and saw that this time it was his sister Zainab. He saw Zainab running barefoot on the desert sand, yelling his name, Akhi Hussein, Qifli Hani'a. My brother Hussein, wait a moment, she was yelling. أخي حسين قفلي هنيئة انزل من على ظهر جوادك. Oh, my brother Hussein, just wait a moment, hang on for a sec. I want to see you one last time. I wish to bid you a final farewell, a farewell to the one I will never see again, she pleaded. Al-Hussein turned to her and said, what is it, Ya Zainab? She replied, Akhi ya Hussein, please come down off your horse. The Imam dismounted. She glanced at him with such affection and said to him, Akhi Aba Abdullah, ikshif li an sadrika wa an nahriq. Oh, Aba Abdullah, please take off your coat of armor. I want you to bare your chest and neck for me, revealing his blessed chest and neck to his sister Zainab. Zainab then she hugged him and she began to inhale the fragrance from his neck. She continued to kiss his chest as much as she could with such love and affection. When Zainab finished embracing, smelling and kissing her brother, Zainab then turned her face towards where? She turned it towards Medina, where her mother Fatima Zahra is buried. And in a loud cry, Zainab yelled, Umma ya Zahra, Umma ya Fatima, لقد استرجعت الوديعة وأخذت الأمانة. Oh, Mother ya Fatima ya Zahra, I have returned the trust you had given me. I have fulfilled my duty as I promised you I would. Unaware of what his sister was talking about or referring to, Al-Hussein said to her, Ya Zainab, for the sake of our mother Fatima, whose name you have just mentioned, tell me, what duty, what promise, what trust are you talking about? Tears began to trickle down her cheeks when then she replied, أعلم يا ابن والدي أعلم يا ابن والدي لما دنت الوفاة من أمنا فاطمة قربتني إليها شمتني في نحري وقبلتني في صدري. أخي أبا عبد الله, when our mother Fatima was on her own deathbed, she came to me and said, Ya Zainab, she embraced me to her, she embraced me close to her, kissing me and smelling me on the neck and said and chest, telling me, Bunayya Zainab, هذه وديعة لي عندك فإذا رأيت أخاك الحسين وحيدا فريدا شميه في نحره وقبليه في صدره. My mother said to me, Zainab, my darling daughter, I leave you this trust. I have this last wish from you. I have one last wish from you. When a day comes and you see that your brother Hussein is alone and helpless, surrounded by enemy soldiers, I want you to embrace him for me. I want you to inhale his fragrance and kiss him on my behalf, Fatima told her daughter. But why his chest and neck, you wonder? أما نحره فإنه موضع السيوف وأما صدره فإنه موضع حوافر الخيول. As for his neck, this is where the swords will fall and where they will sever his neck from his body, his head. And as for his chest, this is where the horse's hooves will trample Al-Husayn's body to pieces. As Hussein and Zainab stood there clinging to each other for some time, weeping and wailing as they remembered their mother Fatima, for they knew this was the end of the road for Hussein. The inevitable departure had now arrived. As Hussein alayhi salam was comforting the women and children, bidding them farewell, Umar ibn Sa'ad alayhi la'na instructed his soldiers to attack the Imam, shouting, "What are you waiting for? Attack him while he is busy with his family. By God, if he is allowed to finish, he will cut through your ranks," he ordered. Parting for the last time, Hussein headed into the battlefield. Thirsty, tired, wounded and heartbroken, Al-Husayn alayhi salam repeatedly recited the verse, "La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim." He then stood leaning on his sword, and in a final attempt to bring the enemy to reason, to eliminate the possibility of any claim or make mistake arising out of ignorance regarding his identity, Al-Husayn then first, what did he do? He first preached to his enemies, reminding them of their obedience to Allah and His Prophet, telling them to refrain from wickedness. Addressing his opponents, Al-Husayn said to them, "Tell me, by God, do you not know who I am? فإن كنتم في شك من ذلك أفتشكون في أن ابن بنت نبيكم." If you are in doubt as to who I am and to what I have to say, do you deny that I am the son of your prophet's daughter? That I am the son of your prophet's daughter. فوالله ما بين المشرق والمغرب ابن بنت نبي غير فيكم ولا في غيركم ويحكم. By God, he told them, there is none like me. There is none like me on the face of the earth that can claim to be the prophet's grandson. They declared, "We know that you are the grandson of Rasulullah, the son of Ali and Fatima." He continued to ask them, "Ya waylakum ala ma tuqatilunani ala haqqin taraktah am ala sunnatin ghayyartuha am ala shari'atin baddaltuha." Then why do you want to kill me? What offense did I commit? What sin or crime did I do? Did I plunder or rob anyone's property, or did I interfere in anyone's affair? Tell me, if I introduced any innovation, have I altered the book of Allah? Have I transgressed against any tenet of the religion? Have I once in my life failed to observe my obligations? He continued, أتطلبوني بقتيل منكم قتلته أو مال لكم استهلكته أو بقصاص من جراحة. Have I killed anyone? He pleaded with them. Have I deprived anyone of his property? Have you found anything I have ever said to be false? Did I ever hurt you? Did I ever aspire for any wealth or power? In one voice, Yazid's beastly forces confessed, no, never, Ya Hussein. Now Al-Husayn is wondering, then why do you want to kill me? If you know all this, then why tell me? Why do you wish to kill me if you know I have done nothing wrong? They replied, بل نقاتلك بغضا منا لأبيك وما فعل بأشياخنا يوم بدر وحنين. Allahu Akbar. Listen to their reasoning for why they want to shed the blood of Hussein. We wish to kill you in revenge of your father Ali ibn Abi Talib, whom we despise and hate so much. Our only desire is to slay you and avenge our ancestors who were killed by your father Ali ibn Abi Talib in the battles of Badr and Hunayn. Al-Hussein alayhi salam was shocked and couldn't believe what he was hearing. These evil people had a grudge against him and were thirsty for his blood only because of what his father Imam Ali had done in supporting the mission of Islam against the infidels of Quraysh. Again, Al-Hussein cautioned them by telling them and reminding them, "You have killed all my companions as well as my children, brothers, and even my little baby. Now I warn you again, leave me alone and don't stain your hands with my blood, which is the very blood of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. You will not have any salvation. It is for your sake I am telling you this. Don't shed my blood and save yourselves while you still can." But they refused to leave him alone when suddenly a commander in Yazid's army ordered his soldiers to attack our Imam and stop him from talking any longer. Al-Hussein quickly charged upon the enemy like a fearless lion before they could attack the tents, for he knew that he needed to act decisively to prevent the mob from harming the women and children. Addressing the enemy, he declared, "Ana al-Husayn ibn Ali alaytu an anthani ahmi iyalati abi amdi ala din al-Nabi." I am Ali, I am Hussein, the son of Ali, and will not yield to the enemy. I will defend the household of my father, following the path of his messenger. The Imam fought the battle with great might, and one by one he killed the best of Yazid's men who appeared for a duel. The enemy was pushed back by the skill and valor of our brave Imam. During his lengthy battle, which lasted for hours, Hussein was now overcome by immense thirst. He rode his horse towards the river and charged upon the strong army guarding the Euphrates, who numbered in their thousands, and drove them away from the river. He entered the water, then instructed his horse Dul-Janah to drink some water. But the horse, as if to look at him in despair, as if to say, "Anta atshan wa ana atshan." "Oh my master, Ya Hussein, you're thirsty and so am I. I will not drink until you drink first." The horse, acknowledging the Imam, raised its head out and refused to drink the water. Hussein then stretched his hand and cupped some water. As he raised it to his mouth, a soldier yelled out, "Ya Hussein, will you drink water while your tents are being looted?" Al-Hussein then threw back the water into the river, and he returned valiantly to the battlefield, sending more of Yazid's soldiers to their deaths. Umar ibn Sa'ad alayhi al-la'na, seeing this, he yelled out to his men, "What are you doing, you useless cowards? Don't you know he is the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the most renowned swordsman of the Arabs? Attack him from every direction." The Imam alayhi salam was quickly surrounded from all sides. As the arrows were being shot at him, he was attacked with swords as well. People who did not have arrows or swords began to throw stones at the Prophet's grandson, just to inflict more pain and suffering upon him. Allahu Akbar. Our defenseless Imam had sustained excessive wounds and cuts to his body, and with blood gushing forth. Seeing him badly wounded, an enemy soldier asked Hussein to surrender, but the Imam, determined as ever, responded defiantly, "الموت أولى من ركوب العار والعار أولى من دخول النار." Death is far better than being disgraced, and being disgraced is far better than entering the fire. It was later reported by Imam al-Baqir, who said that his grandfather Al-Hussein had received over 320 wounds on the front side of his body. This was because he never turned his back to the enemy. In the meantime, Al-Hussein, alone with no one to help or support him, bleeding from innumerable wounds from head to foot, having lost all of his companions, having offered the last and the greatest of his offerings, al-Hussein. He gave a call to all those who were there in Karbala, asking for assistance. He called out, Hal min nasirin yansuruna? Is there anyone out there to help us? Hal min dabbin yadubbu an harami Rasulillah? Is there any defender to stop the enemy from approaching the tents of the Prophet's household? When there was no response from any of the thousands who claimed to be Muslims who were standing and surrounding Al-Hussein, he yelled to them, Alam tasma'u, do you not hear me? Alaysa fiikum Muslim? Isn't there even a single Muslim who will answer my call? Yet there was no response from these people. When Imam al-Hussein gave his final call to the world around him, inviting the people in the way of Allah, Imamuna Zainul Abidin, who had been confined to his bed with high fever, who had just received the responsibility of Imamah from his father moments earlier, he got up leaning upon hearing his father's call. He got up on his cane, dragged himself out of his tent, and in a weak, feeble voice, Ali Zainul Abidin, he walked over to his father and shouted, Labbaika ya Abata, Labbaika ya Aba Abdullah. Al-Hussein alayhi salam, he shouted to his father, here I am, O father, I have come to support you. Go back, my son Ali, you must remain alive, said Hussein. Zainab, do not let go of my son, lest the earth becomes empty of the progeny of Muhammad. It has been reported that Hussein told his ailing son, who was staggering, Bunay Ali, what are you doing? Go back to the tent. Zainul Abidin responded, Ya Abata, inna nida'aka qad qatta'aniyata qalbi. وهيج ساكن لبي أريد أن أفديك يا أبا. Oh Father, your cries for help have torn the arteries from my heart and has taken away my peace of mind. I must come, I must go, I wish to give my life for you, Father. Trying to comfort him, the Imam said, Ya waladi, listen to what he says to Ali Zain al-Abidin. Ya waladi, anta al-hujja wa anta al-imamu ala shi'ati wa anta abu al-a'imma wa kafil al-aytam والمتكفل للأرامل وأنت الراد لحرم إلى حرمي وأنت الراد لحرمي إلى المدينة. My son, you are unwell. There is no obligations on you to fight in battle, nor is it permissible. You are the proof and the Imam of my Shia. You are the father of the Imams who are to come. You are the guardian of the orphans and the widows. You will have to take them back to Medina. The earth must never be empty of an Imam or a proof from my lineage. Ali mustered all the strength he could and pleaded with his father, Ya Abata, أتقتل وأنا أنظر إليك ليت الموت أعدمني الحياة روحي لروحك الفدا ونفسي لنفسك الوقى. Oh Father, should I watch while you are being killed? If only I had died before this day. May my soul be ransom for yours. While Hussein was distracted talking to his son, a stone was hurled from the enemy which struck his forehead and caused it to bleed heavily over Hussein's eyes. As he lifted the base of his robe to clean his forehead, a three-headed arrow immersed in poison was shot through the air, pierced in the body armor and deeply embedded itself into the middle of his blessed chest. Our Imam grabbed hold and pulled the arrow painstakingly out from his chest, reciting, Bismillahi wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. In the name of Allah, by the help of Allah, I'll adhere to the ways of Allah. Turning his face towards the heavens, Al-Hussein prayed, إلهي إنك تعلم أنهم يقتلون رجلا ليس على وجه الأرض ابن بنت نبي غيري. Ya Allah, you know that these people are killing one who there is no other like me on the face of this earth who could claim to be the son of your prophet's daughter. Al-Hussein alayhi salam then placed his hand over the wound, temporarily stopping the surge of bleeding. He cupped the palm of his hand under the running red blood, letting it fill up. This blood I shed for you, Ya Allah. He then threw it into the sky above. Again the Imam cupped the palm of his hand and filled it again. This time he smeared his face and beard with it, crying, this is how I wish to be seen when I meet my grandfather, the Prophet, in paradise. I will point out to him my murderers one by one. And drained of every drop of blood within him and strength, the enemies ceased fighting, and no one dared approach the Imam to strike him the final blow. Umar ibn Sa'd saw the Imam was fatally and seriously wounded. He took the advantage of the situation and ordered his archers to cease firing at Hussein. Shimr alayhi al-la'na, the cursed one, shouted at his soldiers, may your mothers weep over you. Why do you wait? Kill the man. Finish him off. The cowardly soldiers surrounded and continued with the deadly assault on our dying Imam. He fought off the enemy heroically, killing a great number of them, until a soldier struck our Imam on his left arm, whilst another struck Al-Hussein on the shoulder. Sinan ibn Anas came forward and violently thrust his spear into the cavity of Hussein's throat and pulled it out, and again drove it hard into his blessed chest. Somehow he managed with great difficulty to remain on his horse, until a horseman came from behind and stabbed our Imam callously in the left side of his waist with his lance, knocking him off his horse. Rahimallahu man nada wa imama. Rahimallahu man nada wa Husayna. He tried to pick himself up. When one of the villain Yazid's army charged at our Imam. When one of the villains charged at our Imam from behind and hit him over the head with a chain of iron balls, and with the force of the blow to his head split a deep gaping wound, forcing him to fall hard onto his face. Unable to lift his head, he collected a handful of sand. When placing his head on his then placing his right cheek, he facing the tents to see if any assault was being made on his camp. As he began whispering a prayer to himself, soon seeing him motionless, Umar ibn Sa'd, the cursed one, he ordered an assault on the women in Hussein's camp, just to see if the Imam was still conscious and aware. Shimr ibn al-Jawshan with a group of his men, they began to attack the women. They began to attack the tents, frightening the women and children. Listen. Zainab alayhi salam came out screaming and calling to her brother, Ya ibna ummi ya Hussein, Habiba qalbi ya Hussein, إن كنت حيا فأدركنا فهذه الخيول قد هجمت علينا وإن كنت ميتا فأمرنا وأمرك إلى الله. What did Zainab say when Shimr's men attacked the tents of the women and children? Zainab cried out, Oh my mother's son, Ya Hussein, oh my dearest brother, Ya Hussein, if you are still alive, then please help us, for the horsemen are now attacking us. If you are dead, then our fate as well as yours rests with Allah. On hearing his sister, our Imam, wounded, exhausted, he gathered all the strength that was left within him. Unable to get up and remain on his feet, he fell to the ground due to the blows on his body. Forced himself up again only to fall to the ground 3 more times. Then turning his attention to Yazid's men to stop their attacks, he yelled out, O followers of the progeny of Abi Sufyan, if you have no religion or you have no fear of the day of judgment, then at least be free. Then at least be free men in your worldly affairs. Shimr ibn al-Jawshan angrily said, What are you saying, O son of Fatima? The Imam replied, I am fighting with you. What wrong have the women and children done? Ask your men to leave them alone and not go near them while I am still alive. We will not go near your tents while you live, said Shimr. Then turning to his soldiers, he ordered, Come away from the tents and go to Hussein. Come away from the tents, leave the women and children alone, and go to Hussein and finish him, he ordered. The vicious enemies encircled the wounded Imam in great numbers and continued their deadly assault on his already fatally wounded body. Reported on the battlefield, and historians have said that Imam al-Hussein, saturated and soaked in his own blood, he fell prostrate onto the hot desert sand for 3 hours praying, Sabran ala qada'uka ya Rab, la ma'buda siwak, ya ghiyath al-mustaghithin, sabran ala ya ghiyath, sabran ala hukmik, ya ghiyath man la ghiyath lak. Patience upon your decree, Ya Allah. There is no God but you, my Lord. O the aid of those seeking your help. I do not have a Lord other than you, and there is none worthy of worship than you. Perseverance and patience upon your judgment, my Lord. O aid of the one who has no helper. As Hussein alayhi salam continued reciting in the passion of meeting with his Lord, I have abandoned the creation in your love, Ya Allah. I have orphaned my children so that I may see you, my Lord. If the cowards were to cut me into pieces in your love, even then my heart would not long for other than you, Ya Rab. A commander in the enemy ranks named Hilal ibn Nafi' narrates that moments before Hussein's death, I swear by God, never have I seen a slain man whose beard is covered with blood more admirable than him, nor a face more radiant than his. The beauty of his posture and the splendor of his face kept me away from the thought of killing him. Umar ibn Sa'd, now confident and fearless, he ordered one of his men to dismount and behead the dying victim. An enemy soldier approached the fallen Imam lying face on the ground. Using his foot, the soldier rolled the Imam's battered body and injured body over onto his back, only to see the eyes of Hussein gaze deeply into his, causing him to freeze with fear. He hastily retreated, stumbling over himself until he returned to his men. Ibn al-Jawshan, noticing the soldier running away from the dying Imam, demanded, well, where's his head? Where is his head there? The man looked up at Shimr and replied, his eyes, I looked into his eyes. It is as if the Prophet himself was staring at me. I couldn't bring myself to behead him. Shimr alayhi al-la'na lunged down off his horse and said, what is this nonsense? Bear witness that I, Shimr ibn al-Jawshan, shall be the one to kill Hussein. During all this time and watching from the hilltop known as At-Tall al-Zainabiyya, Zainab noticed Umar ibn Sa'd with a group of his evil men swarming around her fallen, wounded brother as he lay on the burning ground. She yelled out and called out, Ya Umar, will you look on as my brother Abdullah is being murdered? Ya Umar, will you look on as my brother Abu Abdullah is being murdered? But he turned his face from her and didn't reply. Her cries filled the air as the Imam lay wounded. Zainab alayha salam then rushed out towards the battlefield and ran straight towards through the ranks of the enemy and reached her dying brother Al-Hussein. When she saw that they were not going to spare him, she yelled in desperation, Is there no Muslim amongst you cowards? Have you no compassion in your hearts? Have you no fear of Allah? She pleaded. Then she fell and knelt down beside her brother Al-Hussein, lamenting, Are you not Hussein, my brother? Are you not the son of my mother? Are you not the light of my eye? Are you not the soul of my heart? Are you not our protector? Are you not our hope and source of comfort, Ya Hussein? Are you not the son of Muhammad al-Mustafa? Are you not the son of Ali al-Murtada? Are you not the son of Fatima al-Zahra? Oh, what evil deed have they committed, Ya Abu Abdullah? For this is Hussein, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Zainab then placed the head of her brother affectionately onto her lap. And as she did so, she softly spoke to him to see if he was still alive. Akhi Hussein, my dearest brother, speak to me, she pleaded with him. But there was no answer from him. She continued, Akhi bihaqqi jaddi Rasulillah illa ma kallamtani. In the name of my grandfather Rasulullah, please speak to me, she asked. Yet there was still no response. Again she pleaded, بِحَقِّ أَبِي أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِلَّا مَا خَاطَبْتَنِي. In the name of our father Ali, please talk to me, Ya Hussein. But there was still no response from the Imam, who with eyes closed was whispering a prayer to himself. Zainab, choked with emotion, pleaded one last time with her brother. يا حسين أسألك بحق أم فاطمة الزهراء إلا ما جاوبتني. I beg you in the name of our mother Fatima, answer me, Ya Hussein. The Imam finally opened his eyes. He stopped praying and acknowledged the presence of his courageous sister for the first time. Then he began to weep, turning to Zainab. He said, Ukhayya Zainab, kasarti qalbi wa zidti karbi, fabillahi alayki illa ma sakanti wa sakanti. Oh Zainab, you're aching and breaking my heart, causing me more agony by mentioning the name of our mother Fatima. I implore you, oh Zainab, please stop it. They consoled each other for a while. When Hussein sensed the evil approach of Shimr, he turned to his sister and insisted she leaves the battlefield and take care of the children, and bade her farewell. But she refused, saying, Leave you, my beloved Hussein, never. I shall die defending you, Habibi ya Hussein. But the Imam swayed his head off her lap and commanded her to return back to the camp. Ya Ukhayya, women are not bound by battle. Go back to my household, Ya Zainab, as I fear for them. This is my last farewell. Look after the orphans and the children, and my son Zainul Abidin, the next Imam of your time. Shimr alayhi al-la'na. quickly approached them, brother and sister, for the final time together. Shimr alayhi al-la'na approached the siblings who were on the ground, and with force he grabbed Zainab off her brother. He grabbed Zainab away from her dying brother and struck her hard on the face, sending her tumbling onto the hot sand. And with his sword, Shimr alayhi al-la'na, he began brutally striking at the body of our Imam, inflicting more cuts upon his already wounded body. When Shimr alayhi al-la'na finally stopped, he was exhausted. What did he do next? He decided to sit on our Imam's chest. Zainab shouted at Shimr and lurched herself at him in fury, pushing him off the body of her brother. How dare you, Ya Shimr? How dare you, Ya Shimr, sit on the sacred chest of my brother Al-Hussein, Ya Adu Allah. Shimr quickly recovered and dusted himself off. He once again took hold of Zainab and he hit her fiercely across the mouth, sending her again crashing into the ground. Shimr picked up the sword that dropped from his hand. He turned his attention once again back to the dying Imam and continued to inflict more wounds, striking him with his sword over and over. The dazed Imam, who was visibly in pain, opened his eyes and saw that it was Shimr ibn al-Jawshan. He asked for a sip of water, but Shimr refused to give him any. Still not content with the violent onslaught on our defenseless Imam, Shimr alayhi al-la'na began to put his boot into the battered body of our Imam, and he repeatedly kicked him hard into his ribs. Then using his foot, Shimr used his foot to roll over Imamuna onto his face. Al-Hussein, who was on his back, Shimr used his foot to roll over the Imam onto his face. Shimr alayhi al-la'na. He stood above our dying Imam, who was still alive. Now brace yourselves for the ultimate and most horrific crime ever committed against an innocent man whose grandfather was the Prophet. Shimr alayhi al-la'na began violently reached out, then grabbed hold of the Imam's blood-soaked beard. He tilted Imamuna's head up towards him, and with 12 strokes of the blade, he began slicing and hacking through the arteries of our Imam. Rahim Allahu man nada wa imama. Aywa Husayna. Aywa imama wa Husayna wa madluma. As our Imam's head was being severed violently, Husaynana cried out, Wa Jadda wa Muhammada. Oh grandfather, will I be killed? Oh father, will I be killed thirsty, even though my father is Ali and my mother is Fatima? Without any warning, shocks of an earthquake trembled, the earth shaking all those that were present at Karbala. Darkness enveloped and drops of blood began to rain from the sky. Suddenly a sound from heaven was heard to say, قتل والله الإمام ابن الإمام أخو الإمام أبو الأئمة. قتل والله الإمام قتل والله الإمام ابن الإمام أخو الإمام أبو الأئمة الحسين بن علي بن أبي طالب. By God, an Imam, a son of an Imam, the brother of an Imam, the father of the Imams has been killed. A courageous lion has been slaughtered. The protector of the widows and orphans has been butchered without cause. After the brutal murder of Abu Abdullah, were they content? Were they satisfied, these evil men? Umar Ali ibn Sa'd ordered his men to trample now the headless body of our Imam with their horses to further humiliate Al-Hussein, thus crushing every bone in his chest and back, leaving his torn headless body scattered on the plains of Karbala. When the women and children saw the horse return back to the camp without its rider, when the women and children saw Imam Hussein's horse return back to the camp without its rider and its saddle twisted, the women and children ran out of the tents towards where Hussein's body lay. خرجنا من الخدور ناشرات الشعور على الخدود لاطمات ولو الوجوه سافرات وبالعويل داعيات وإلى مصرع الحسين مبادرات. The women and children came responding, beating their chests, their faces uncovered, screaming and wailing, running in the direction of where Hussein had been killed. And when they arrived to where the Imam's headless body lay on the ground, فواحدة تحنو عليه تضمه وأخرى عليه بالرداء تضلله وأخرى بفيض النحر تصبغ وجهها وأخرى تفديه وأخرى تقبله وأخرى على خوف تلوذ بجنبه. When they arrived to where the headless body of our Imam lay, one of them earnestly kneels beside to embrace him, whilst another covers him with her robe. Another, with the flow of his bleeding neck, smears her face with it. Another wishes to be ransomed for Al-Hussein, while another keeps kissing his body. Yet another, out of fear, seeks refuge with his corpse. As for Zainab, she fell down and lamented her beloved brother's body. Holding the lifeless body of Abi Abdullah, Zainab wept. And she turned to Medina and cried, Ya Jaddah, Ya Rasul Allah, صلى عليك ملائكة السماء هذا الحسين بالعراء مرمل بالدماء مقطع الأعضاء مسلوب العمامة والرداء اللهم تقبل منا هذا القربان. Ya Rasulullah, our grandfather, the angels in heaven send their blessings upon you. For here is your beloved Hussein, whose limbs have been torn apart and whose head has been severed from the back of his neck, left stained in his own blood, cut to pieces. Ya Allah, accept this sacrifice from us. As for our ailing Imamuna Zayn al-Abidin, he staggers out from the tent and looks towards the crowd that have assembled. What does he see? He sees the head of his father Al-Hussein mounted on a spear. In a trembling voice he salutes him, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. This is how they treated the progeny of Muhammad, brutally slaughtering Hussein and his loved ones for no reason at all. Even though the Prophet once had said about Hussein, is minni wa ana min Hussein. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. Allah loves whoever loves Hussein and is cursed by Allah whoever hurts Hussein. This tragedy occurred on Friday, the 10th of Muharram, in the year 61 after the Hijrah. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Oh Allah, send your blessings upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Oh Allah, grant us the opportunity to perform the ziyarah to the shrines of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. نسألك يا الله اكشف السوء عنا وفرج عنا وارحمنا بتعجيل فرج وليك صاحب العصر والزمان يا الله. اللهم لا تدع لنا إلا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم ثبتنا على دينك ما أحييتنا ولا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا. اجعلنا من الذين تنتصر به لدينك ولا تبدلنا بغيرنا طرفة عين يا الله. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين واقتل الكفر والكافرين. اللهم انصر الإيمان والمؤمنين واخذل النفاق والمنافقين. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في شرق الأرض وغربها يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر المجاهدين والمقاومين في لبنان وإيران والعراق وفلسطين واليمن. اللهم انصرهم نصرا عزيزا. اللهم ثبت أقدامهم وسدد رميهم. إلى أرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات والشهداء، إلى أرواح أمواتكم، إلى روح المرحوم والد الحج يوسف شاهين والمرحوم أخي عباس يوسف شاهين، وإلى روح المرحوم السيد الأقدس السيد حسن، وإلى شهداء المقاومة الإسلامية، وإلى الشهداء والعلماء. نهدي للجميع ثواب الفاتحة مع الصلوات. نصلي على محمد.
حسينا وحسينا وحسينا وحسينا. اسمعوا لاحظوا، انتوا بكربلاء هلا مع السيدة زينب على تل الزينبي. You in Karbala right now and you're witnessing Imam al-Hussein. What's happening to Imam al-Hussein right now? فنزل إليه الشمر وجلس على صدره وقبضها على شيبته فضرب بالسيف 12 ضربة وقطع رأس الحسين. وويلا يا أبا عبد الله، لبيك يا حسين، بيك يا حسين، أصواتكم لبيك يا حسين. يوم العاشر شباب، لبيك يا حسين، لبيك يا حسين. الله هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا للموت حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين صابه، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين صابه، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطم شباب على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطم. والأصوات يوم شباب يوم العاشر، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين صابه، هذا لطمنا للموت صابه هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله بالسما نادى المنادي حيهم الوفاية، هذا شهر الدمع عود، يلا شيلوا الراية، يلا شيلوا الراية. وين لطامة الزهرة، وين هالبتشاية، حضرت أهل المجالس ليلة عدها قراية، ليلة عدها. الله هذا لطمنا للموت، بهذا لطمنا للموت. شباب من اصواتكم، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، ومصابه. هذا لطمنا للموت على، بهذا لطمنا للموت. الله الله يا علي يا علي يا علي، يا علي يا علي. الله كل ما نبوى للزكية خلي يشد حزامه، خلي يشد حزامه. للجزع من هسه يبدي حسين هاي ايامه، حسين هاي. الله كل ما ننوى للزكية خلي يشد حزامه، للجزع من هسه يبدي حسين هاي ايامه. وتعبوا اليمة يا حزن بهالسنة بخدامه، الله الله سنة من خدامه. الله هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه. هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله يا علي يا علي يا علي يا، يا علي يا علي يا علي. شباب It's Ashura boys, come on. وين اصواتكم؟ يلا في امام الحسين عليه السلام، امام الحسين. هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصاب. الله اي هذا لطمنا للموت، احسنتم. هذا لطمنا للموت. الله الله يا علي يا، يا علي يا علي يا، الله بس 9 أيام عدنا نريد منكم همة، بس 10 أيام عدنا نريد منكم همة. لا تعوف الفرصة صار هذا وقت الخدمة، هذا وقت الخدمة. حسين إذا ما إلى نخلص ما نوصل للقمة، حسين إذا ما إلى نخلص ما نوصل للقمة. هو رحمة هو نجمة هو سيد النعمة، هو سيد النعمة، هو سيد النعمة، نعمة هو سيد النعمة. الله اي هذا لطمنا للموت، بي هذا لطمنا للموت. الله اي هذا لطمنا للموت، صابه هذا لطم. الله الله يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي. الله خلص سنين بواقي واضحى حسينية، خلص سنين بواجي واحذر حسينية. روحي تدخل جنة الله راضية مرضية، راضية مرضية. ليش كل مجلس حسيني شوف بروحية، ليش كل مجلس حسيني نشوف بروحية. عالرواية تقول تحضر فاطمة القدسية، فاطمة القدسية، فاطمة القدسية. الله الله فاطمة القدس. الله اي هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله اي هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطم. الله يا علي يا علي يا علي، الله الله يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي. الله اي هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله هذا لطم. حسين أضلاعك سيرة وانت صدرك عامر، وانت صدرك عامر. حسين أضلاعك سيرة وانت صدرك عامر، وانت صدرك عامر. الطم محرق على صدره اليوم يوم العاشر، اليوم يوم العاشر، اليوم يوم العاشر. شباب صدرك اليوم يوم العاشر، يوم العاشر. الله حسين يسوى تعب وانت بهالتعب مو خاسر، حسين يسوى تعب وانت بهالتعب مو خاسر. والله من توقع بشدة ما يعوفك حاير، ما يعوفك. الله هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت. شباب all of us together. هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، على حسين. هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله الله يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي. الله يخدم حسين بحسرته هالف خيعونه، باللطم ينخسف صدره وتجري دم عيونه، تجري دم. الله الله الخدم حسين بحسرته هذا لف خيعونه، باللطم ينخسف صدره وتجري دم عيونه، تجري دم. الله الله حكى عابس شد قميصه واعترف بجنونه، واعترف بجنونه. حكى عابس شد قميصه واعترف بجنونه، واعترف. احنا نكون انشق قلبنا والعهد منخونا، والعهد منخونا، والعهد منخونا، والعهد منخونا، والعهد منخونا، والعهد منخونا. الله هذا لطمنا للموت، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا على حسين. هذا لطمنا للموت حسين ومصابه، هذا لطمنا للموت على حسين ومصابه. الله هذا لطمنا للموت صابه، هذا لطمنا للموت. الله يا علي 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 يا علي. صلى على محمد وآل محمد.